Healy. I am a native New Yorker whose first apartment with his parents in New York City was on 96th Street near the East 96th Street Library. After my family and I went away and returned to New York City a few years later, we moved into an apartment at 98th Street and 5th Avenue where I grew up. My bedroom looked over Central Park, which was a treat for me. A bit of the country in the big city. I enjoyed the changing seasons. I went to elementary school across the street, St. Bernard's School. A good part of my school athletics took place in Central Park. Soccer and softball practices and games took place in the official sports fields that had goalposts, reachable by crossing the road in the park. Touch football games took place on the hilly meadow just east of a rock formation next to the children's playground that is adjacent to the entrance to the park on 5th Avenue north of 98th Street. My schoolmates and I would run around that meadow. Some of us came back on our own to play softball after school in the summer. One time in the late 1960s, we had an incident where some tough youths tried to bully us and steal our equipment. One brave classmate of mine stood his ground and got our equipment back with minimal damage to himself. The city was indeed getting rougher, as I experienced myself one day in 1968. Waiting for a bus on 5th Avenue in front of the park, I was nearly mugged, but as the muggers tried to mug me, the bus arrived, and I jumped on. When I came back to New York City at the beginning of the 1980s, crime had increased. My old school had to employ security guards to walk the school children to the park because toughs had been brandishing guns in the area. I moved to the Murray Hill neighborhood of New York City in 1983. Years later, as president of Logos Bookstore in 1995, I had to make a decision where to move my bookstore, as the midtown rents had become too high back then. I had been attending a small fellowship group of my church, which was meeting in the apartment of friends who lived in the big housing complex at 78th Street between York and the river. It was quite something walking up to the 5th floor of that complex on concrete outdoor stairs that were covered. The area looked like it was a growing one and the neighborhood to move my bookstore to. And I did, to York Avenue between 83rd and 84th Street, behind the bus stop shelter, where the store remains to this day. Tom Wilkinson of Wilkinson's Seafood Restaurant next to Logos Bookstore at that time, in 1995, welcomed me and said we were pioneers. And we were. Sleepy delis and failing hardware stores dominated the scene. There was huge scaffolding over several buildings at the southwest corner of 83rd and York. One building included a bar called the Mill House, owned by Jack Dorian of Dorian's at 84th and 2nd Avenue. The Mill House had been shut down by the city for many violations. The scaffolding finally was taken down, the building demolished, and a swank high-rise building rose on that corner in 2006. Over the years, as York Avenue has become scaffold-free, more people have discovered the avenue, and we at Logos have seen more customers. We have also had several different retail neighbors on either side of us. Wilkinson's restaurant was succeeded by York Imperial in August 2001. Customers would ask us, "How's the news Chinese?" We would tell them, "It's not Chinese cuisine, it's American." "What?" was the reply. York Imperial was gone by September 2002. To be succeeded by Oscars on York, which used Logos patio garden for outdoor dining. The principals of this operation got bored and farmed out management to quarreling brothers. That restaurant was gone by spring of 2004. In the fall of 2004, Pintail's Pizza moved from a couple of stores up the block to next door to Logos and remained there until the end of its lease in 2014. Unfortunately, this lot remains vacant to this day. On the other side of Logos, there was a failing deli when we first moved in. It was replaced by a tiny antique and pillow shop. Later, Gracie's Wines was there before it moved to the corner space at 84th in York, where it is now. Alex's Sports Cards and Comic Books moved in early 2015. I like the block Logos is on between 83rd and 84th Street for its buildings, many dating from the very early 20th century. In Logos, we have an original tin ceiling, and I kept it and painted it white. These buildings remind me there's a history to the neighborhood. I hope this block stays as is. That is a lot to hope for, as so many tall buildings are sprouting up on York, 1st and 2nd Avenues. Yes, we have active neighborhood associations like the 79th Street Neighborhood Association, concerned elected officials, and diligent community boards. May they continue. I hope those people 20 to 50 years old will come involved preserving their neighborhood as those faithful activists of the past 30 plus years move on in their lives. So we all can enjoy 83rd and 84th Street and the wonderful cherry blossom season in Carl Schurz Park and Carl Schurz Park itself.